The real Attila, truth and myth about the legendary warlord. The myth of the great conqueror. Why historians overrated Attila's role. Traditional historiography paints Attila as a genius ruler, whose personality was the defining factor in the creation and existence of the Hunnic Empire. Late Roman chroniclers and subsequent generations of historians crafted a persistent narrative that without this man's exceptional abilities, the Hunnic state could never have reached such heights, and its collapse after his death was inevitable. However, a thorough analysis of historical facts raises doubts about the validity of these claims. Unravel the truth behind Attila's legend. Subscribe and hit the like button to explore the secrets of the Hunnic Empire. The exaggeration of Attila's personal role in Hunnic history stems from several factors. First and foremost, Roman historians, the primary sources for this period, were prone to personifying historical processes, attributing complex socio-political phenomena to the will of individual, exceptional figures. This approach was typical of ancient historiography in general, and was particularly pronounced in descriptions of barbarian peoples, whose internal structures remained poorly understood by the Romans. Moreover, the late Roman Empire, grappling with a profound internal crisis, psychologically needed to explain its failures by the actions of a genius adversary. Admitting that defeats were inflicted by a ruler of average abilities would have been too humiliating for Roman pride. This also explains Attila's enduring epithet, Scourge of God, flagellum Dei. Romans preferred to see their setbacks as divine providence rather than their own political and military missteps. Later European historians, relying heavily on Roman sources, inherited and reinforced this personified approach. By the 5th century CE, the foundations of medieval historiographical tradition were forming, which leaned even more heavily into the heroization and demonization of historical figures. The image of Attila as the destroyer of ancient civilization proved convenient for crafting a dramatic narrative of the transition from antiquity to the Middle Ages. Modern scholars, drawing on a broader range of sources and applying critical analysis, conclude that Attila's role was far more modest than traditionally portrayed. Historian Edward Thompson, in his 1948 work, A History of Attila and the Huns, was among the first to question the exceptional nature of Attila's personal qualities. Subsequent studies of nomadic empires by scholars like Owen Lattimore and Anatoly Kazanov revealed systemic patterns in the formation and functioning of steppe states, where the ruler's personality, while important, is not the decisive factor. Comparisons with other nomadic empires, particularly the Mongol Empire of the 13th century, show that a state's collapse after its founder's death was not historically inevitable. The Mongol state not only survived Genghis Khan's death, but reached its greatest territorial extent under his successors. This precedent convincingly refutes the notion that nomadic empires were doomed to disintegrate after their creator's demise. Standing on the shoulders of predecessors, what Rua and Octar built before Attila. Contrary to popular belief, Attila inherited an already formed empire, built through the efforts of his predecessors. His uncles, Rua and Octar, who ruled the Huns before him, played a pivotal role in this process. They laid the foundations of the state structure that their nephew later inherited and expanded. Rua, who became the supreme Hunnic leader in the 420s, was the first to systematically unite disparate Hunnic tribes under a single authority. Under his rule, Hunnic influence stretched from the Rhine to the Volga, a testament to his ambitious political vision. Crucially, Rua established a system of regular tribute payments from the Eastern Roman Empire, which became a vital source of wealth for the Hunnic elite and strengthened the supreme leader's authority. The Huns' political influence under Rua reached such heights that they could meddle in the Roman Empire's internal affairs. For instance, around 432–433 CE, Rua granted asylum to the Roman general Aetius, enabling him to return to Ravenna and later assume the role of supreme commander of the Western Roman army. This diplomatic triumph secured the Huns a powerful ally in the highest echelons of Roman power. Octar, Rua's brother, co-ruled the western Hunnic territories, and pursued an aggressive expansionist policy in Gaul and the Rhine regions. His campaigns against the Burgundians and other Germanic tribes extended Hunnic control far westward. After Octar's death, likely around 430 CE, Rua consolidated all Hunnic territories under his rule, setting the stage for further centralization. The geographical scope of the Hunnic leaders' activities before Attila is striking. While Octar waged wars near the Rhine, Rua threatened the Eastern Romans on the Danube and influenced Italian politics. This clearly indicates that the sphere of Hunnic influence was already vast. In this context, a fundamental difference between Attila and Genghis Khan, with whom he is often compared, becomes evident. While the Mongol Empire's founder began by uniting scattered tribes, Attila inherited an established political entity with functioning mechanisms for controlling subject peoples. Unfortunately, the process of forming the Hunnic tribal confederation is poorly documented. It can be inferred that Rua and his brothers played a decisive role in consolidating Hunnic society, their efforts no less significant than Attila's later contributions. If this assumption is correct, the contributions of Attila's predecessors to the creation of the Hunnic Empire deserve as much historical recognition as those of the Scourge of God himself. Notably, even during his sole rule, Rua could not fully subdue all Hunnic tribes. Tribes such as the Amilzurs, Itimars, Tunsurs, Boishi, and others maintained their independence, some even seeking Byzantine protection against the supreme leader's claims. Rua died in 434 CE, leaving the task of completing tribal unification to his nephews. Attila and Bleda military talent in question, analyzing Attila's battles and strategic decisions. The traditional view of Attila as an exceptional military commander also lacks convincing evidence upon closer scrutiny of his campaigns. Despite several notable victories, his military strategy rarely showed signs of true genius, and some campaigns ended in outright failures. Attila's first major campaign against the Eastern Roman Empire in 441–443 CE was indeed successful. However, this success owed more to fortunate circumstances than to the Hunnic leader's military brilliance. The Balkans at that time were virtually defenseless, as the empire's main forces were deployed in North Africa against the Vandals. Attila essentially invaded a region with no serious opposition. When the Byzantines hastily recalled troops from Sicily, these units were in poor condition. For years they had been idle, outmaneuvered by the Vandals' King Gaiseric. Demoralized and lacking combat experience, these troops posed little challenge to the Hunnic cavalry. Thus, Attila's victory in this campaign was largely due to the enemy's weakness rather than his own outstanding leadership. Attila's second major campaign against the Eastern Roman Empire in 447 CE culminated in victory at the Battle of the Utus, but at a heavy cost to his forces. Moreover, historical accounts provide no evidence of innovative tactical maneuvers or strategic decisions by Attila that would suggest military genius. The battle was won through numerical superiority and traditional step tactics, requiring little innovation. The true test of Attila's military abilities came in his 451 CE Western campaign, where he faced not only Romans but also allied Germanic tribes, particularly the Visigoths. This campaign ended in a crushing defeat at the Battle of the Catalaunian Fields, casting serious doubt on Attila's reputation as an invincible commander. In this battle, Attila made critical tactical errors. Despite an initial success when his cavalry broke through the Allied army's center, he failed to capitalize on it, allowing the Roman general Aetius to seize the initiative. The Huns were defeated and forced to retreat, abandoning their camp and equipment. The funeral pyre of saddles on the Champagne plain became a symbol of this defeat, the last act of the retreating Huns for their fallen comrades. Attila's 452 CE Italian campaign, while resulting in the sacking of northern cities like Aquileia, Mediolanum modern Milan, and Ticinum modern Pavia, also fails to demonstrate exceptional military talent. The Hunnic army faced little resistance, as the Western Romans' main forces were in Gaul. However, an epidemic and food shortages forced Attila to halt his advance on Rome and retreat beyond the Danube. Diplomatic blunders, missed opportunities, and strategic errors. If Attila's military talents are questionable, his diplomatic abilities appear even more limited upon scrutiny. Despite his reputation as a skilled diplomat, his political decisions often lacked foresight and led to strategic miscalculations. The most striking example of Attila's diplomatic short-sightedness was his preparation. For the 451 CE Gallic campaign, initially his strategy seemed sound, isolating the Visigoths from the Western Romans by presenting himself as Ravenna's ally. This could have allowed the Huns to defeat their enemies piecemeal. However, Attila recklessly abandoned this plan upon receiving an invitation from Honoria, sister of the Western Roman Emperor Valentinian III. The story of Honoria is one of the most bizarre episodes in Attila's political career. The Roman princess, discontented with her position at court, secretly sent Attila her ring, which could be interpreted as a marriage proposal. Instead of soberly assessing the situation, Attila saw it as a genuine opportunity to claim Western Roman territories as her dowry. His insistent and clumsy attempts to secure Honoria's hand provoked outrage from the imperial court, and crucially, drove Ravenna and Toulouse, the Visigothic capital, closer together. An analysis of Western Roman Visigothic relations in the decades before 451 CE shows that only an extraordinary event could have united Aetius and the Visigothic king Theodoric. Attila's matrimonial ambitions were precisely that event, alarming both parties. Thus he forged the coalition against himself that a wiser approach could have avoided. Another testament to Attila's diplomatic failings was his relationship with the Vandal king Gaiseric. Pursuing his own interests, Gaiseric encouraged Attila to attack the Visigoths, promising support. A seasoned diplomat would have been wary of such offers, given the Vandals' lack of practical aid and their ongoing conflict with the Western Romans. Yet Attila allowed himself to be drawn into an adventure that benefited Gaiseric while leaving the Huns with a crushing defeat. Attila's most glaring diplomatic failure was his inability to exploit social tensions within the Western Roman Empire. By the mid-5th century, Gaul saw the rise of the Bagaudae, rebellious peasants and colony opposing the landowning aristocracy. Led by figures like Tibato and Eudoxius, the Bagaudae were a significant force capable of weakening Roman presence in Gaul. Eudoxius, a Bagaudae leader, fled to the Huns in 448 CE, offering Attila a unique chance to ally with this movement. Yet Attila failed or refused to seize this opportunity. For a steppe conqueror accustomed to a parasitic economy based on plunder and tribute, aligning with rebellious peasants seemed alien. To him, the Bagaudae were merely potential suppliers of provisions, not political allies. This inability to think beyond his society's traditional framework was a fatal mistake. Had Attila led the Bagaudae, Gaul could have been cleared of Visigoths and Romans in months. Instead, the people of Armorica, modern Brittany, where the Bagaudae were strongest, fought alongside Aetius against the Huns at the Catalaunian Fields. Thus, Attila's diplomatic skills, upon closer inspection, were severely limited. His decisions were often driven by short-term considerations or traditional steppe perspectives, leading to significant strategic blunders. Real contribution. Centralizing power as Attila's main achievement. Critical assessment of Attila's military and diplomatic talents does not negate his historical significance. His most substantial and genuine achievement was centralizing power within the tribal confederation built by his predecessors. In this arena, Attila demonstrated political acumen and an understanding of the historical opportunities available to Hunnic society. Unfortunately, information about the Huns' socio-political organization before Attila is scarce, making it difficult to precisely evaluate the extent of transformation during his reign. However, comparing known facts about the Hunnic Confederation under Rua and Attila reveals significant changes. Rua, despite his efforts to unite the Hunnic tribes, had to share power with his brothers Octar and Munzuk. Even after becoming sole ruler following Octar's death, he couldn't fully subdue all tribes. Groups like the Amilzurs, Idamars, Tunsurs, Boisi, and others resisted integration, some seeking Byzantine protection. Rua died before completing this unification. In contrast, Attila, especially after killing his brother Bleda in 445 CE, wielded near-absolute power. The Byzantine diplomat Priscus of Panium, who visited Attila's court in 449 CE, described a ruler whose orders were obeyed unquestioningly, even by the Hunnic elite. This transformation of power dynamics was revolutionary. The traditional nomadic political structure, based on segmented tribal autonomy, gave way to a centralized model with a clear hierarchy. This shift was not accidental. It reflected Attila's deep understanding of the geopolitical opportunities of the 5th century. Attila recognized that only a unified Hunnic confederation under a single leader could effectively exploit the peoples of Central and Eastern Europe. Without such unity and centralized authority, the Huns would have faded quietly from history, as many nomadic tribes before them, like the Scythians, had done. A key innovation was the development of a system of trusted lieutenants or loga